hell of an intro. I tell you what you info, but I never really been the type of dude to give no info.
Welcome to the Walking Girl Show, everyone. It's Roney and Courtney on the mic, and today we have a special guest. And typically we don't really go right into it, but there was something remarkable that she said, and I was like, no, we gotta stop this. I want everybody to hear in the first couple of seconds, because I know sometimes your attention spans are all really horrible. Sorry if I offended anybody.
Oh my god.
However, I want our guests to take it away, because can you just repeat again what you just kind of said to us before we kick this thing off,
so much.
please?
Yeah, I said your life is not supposed to be easy, but your emotions don't run the show, and there are tools to help you get through this.
I'm gonna let everyone just sit on that one for a little bit. Just take it in as you please. But yes, we're here. We're back with another one. I'm glad you guys were able to hear that piece. I'm sure there's going to be even more, but that's just a little tidbit of what is going to come in this episode, especially if you guys are looking for some sort of tools to navigate you through whatever situation. As we always do, this is why we're here. We're here to give you guys different perspectives, tools, things that you can tangibly take away from this to be able to apply to your daily lives. But Courtney, if you don't mind formally introducing our guest here.
I'd be happy to. So yeah, I kind of just want to continue what you were saying a little bit, because we have had conversations about resilience. We have had conversations about stress and adversity and all these different things, but this is just, I think it's just going to be taking it to a whole nother level. So we do have Darienne here today. It's so funny. I don't know why this just happened, but it just popped into my head how happy my parents are going to be that you're on. And the reason for that, and this is totally just going to be my intro, is just Darienne is the type of person, you hear this and it's like cliche, you see it on social media or whatever, but this is like the most true thing or the most true person where it's like, just they light up the room. Like as soon their energy is like so contagious, and the type of person that just like anytime like she could come to practice and just the whole team is just like Darienne's here, or everything stops because it's just like she came into the room or she came into the space, and the reason for that is not like, it doesn't have to be because you're famous, it doesn't have to be because you do anything specific. It's just like she's just that type of person, that positive energy and like uplifting spirit, and just super fun to be around. And so that's all fantastic as a friend, but in terms of podcast space specifically, a lot of her social media and just things that she says, like being a friend, is just so inspiring and uplifting, and I just need everyone to hear it, and not just me and not just her followers. So that's why I dragged her into this space. It didn't take much, thankfully, but I dragged her into this space and was like, we need to hear more. We need to talk more, and it needs to be mic'd.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, so we're so happy to have you here, but this is my friend and previous teammate, Darienne.
Wow, Courtney, thank you for that introduction.
That
was incredible.
It's all true.
I want to carry you in my pocket. And this is my spokesperson, Courtney.
Elevator speech. But it's true. And I mean, it's all real. It's all just how I feel. And yeah, I mean, we could test it.
Don't cry.
You know me. We could test it. I'll keep bringing you around and I'll be like, see, keeps happening. But yeah, I just can't wait for other people. Like, you know, once people hear you talk and hear your point of view and your perspectives, they're gonna be like, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And just the spirit. I think that's what it's gonna be. Is it's gonna be a like uplifting and very positive episode, but still a lot of, like we said, tools and just ideas and perspectives to take away. So I'm excited.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and really take it away. Is that your quote, or is that something you read? Is that something that you came across, what you mentioned, what you kind of just previously said earlier?
No, that's just from life experience. Like I kind of sat there one day and I was like, why do I feel like I can't win? Why do I feel like life is so hard? Like, it just didn't make sense to me. And then I was hiking Camelback Mountain and I was like, this is an incredibly hard hike. Half of these people should not be on this mountain. Like, it was like a safety issue for me. And then I was like, well, of course we're all on this mountain because life isn't supposed to be easy. If this was the easiest hike in the world, no one would be here. we all are looking for that peak. We all want to overcome that adversity. We want to get through the hardest hike in Arizona, right? And so then I kind of reflected as I was trying to come back down the mountain, and I was like, oh my God, this whole thing isn't supposed to be easy. I would have never hiked this mountain if it was easy. I would have never applied for the job that I have right now if it was easy. I have never seen like a pattern in life where people are like, I just want easy. Because you don't. Like you want comfort because comfort is comfortable, and that's what we're used to. But I don't know one person that wants something easy.
Yeah. It's so, it's, yeah.
Oh man, I'm going to love this conversation.
It's so funny because it's like things that, like when it's said and when you're hearing it, you're like, this isn't crazy to think about. Like, it's not hard to wrap your brain around, but you never think about it. Like, it's like, it sounds kind of obvious, but it's like, we never think about it. We never talk about it. And it's when it's brought up like that and stated like that, you're just like, damn, it's true. You're so right.
So why do you believe? Because I would say I don't think everybody wants hard. I think some people just get hard.
Yeah.
I'm a person where I like hard, right? I'm okay with dealing with difficult situations. I will say I think my mental toughness it's good to handle a lot of things, maybe not everything. But do you think that many people like to do hard things, or is it that they're just faced with difficult situations time after time, and that just kind of takes over?
I think there's sides to both of those statements. I think that some people love to do hard things I think people get addicted. I will speak for myself. I am addicted to the feeling of overcoming something hard.
Same.
And when I do, I'm like, yeah, you can't stop me. I get all David Goggins in my head all of a sudden. I'm like, yeah, you can't kill me. Yeah. But then I also see the other side where people have been failed by systems and support families and just have gone through so much adversity that they feel as if there's no light at the end of the tunnel. I see it every single day I go into shift. I see people who have been affected by an incredibly hard life from day one who absolutely have no leg up. They have no privilege. And so I can see both sides of it. I can see people who love to do hard things, and I can see people who have a very hard life.
And I just want to add to that a little bit because, and this is not to minimize those experiences at all, but one thing I do want to mention is a little bit about mindset, because there might be, and I'm sure you have this experience, our work is very different, but we probably experience a lot of the same themes, I would say. But some of the people who experience the hardest things would kind of say their mindset wouldn't, the adverse, like just the resilience is what I'm looking for, the word that I'm looking for. And them being able to be like, yeah, just something that we got to get through. So anybody else kind of in that situation, or anyone else who maybe chooses the harder routes because we know we can accomplish it, or because we have the supports, we have, the background, whatever it is, might be like, ooh, this is really tough. Where someone with a more difficult or traumatic past, they're like, this is just another step. And then there's other people who, and I can absolutely be guilty of this, where it's like one thing, my dishwasher doesn't work in the morning, and I'm like, oh, such a hard day, so it's like, what is
I'm not God's strongest soldier. I'm
exactly. It's like, man, I gotta hand wash my dishes in this house that I have to myself. Worst day ever, So it's not all about mindset, because what Darienne mentioned, like, it's absolutely true that some people have a more difficult path for sure, but there is definitely a piece of that mindset where it's like, what is hard, what is difficult, what is adversity. But yeah. But do you have another question, Ronnie? I think I cut you off.
No, not off the back of my head. I'm just kind of reflecting on what we're talking about here. I mean, I can go on and on about this topic just in itself, because I think I don't know. I really do think that some people are just naturally gifted and born with that mental toughness, that gratitude. And of course, it is then on the other end, it's the experiences that one goes through where it's like, well, I've been through this before. So you think this little thing in front of me is going to stop me from getting upset.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of both ends on that. But I really want those individuals that may not have the mental toughness, not to forcefully put yourself in difficult situations, because that doesn't really make any sense. But more or less just kind of analyze and see, like, if you are faced with, like Courtney mentioned, all right, dishwasher goes out. Now it's like, okay, do you really get upset, or is it just, you see the situation for what it is and find a way around it? Like I always mention, it's either you're gonna go around the brick wall or you're gonna break right through it. Your choice is yours, right? You go right through it. It's of course gonna be a little bit harder. You go around it, it's gonna take a little bit more time, but you made it through. But yeah, no, I like that, just that topic in itself, because it really does shed a light on, just what it really takes to get through certain situations, despite, just your current circumstances or your past. Because I know, at least I know individuals myself that will use their past as an anchor. And sometimes that could be a good thing or a bad thing.
Yes, and I will touch on this. I call that rumination. I think that on occasion, when you hold on to your past that deeply, you are just ruminating on it. And you're not getting past it, and it's a cyclical event. You're like, well, I went through this one really hard thing 6 years ago. Nothing will ever break me because that hard thing is still there. It's not.
Yep.
You are still there. No one else is there but you, and you have the choice to climb that ladder and stop ruminating on it, to grow and develop past that. The show must go on.
And that's exactly what I'm going to say. The show must go on. And so, like I was kind of sharing just before we had that malfunction there, my father and I, we don't have at the moment the greatest relationship, but up until the age I was a teenager, we had a good relationship. And so using, like you kind of mentioned, the rumination and using something as an anchor, just kind of how our relationship is now, I was like, I'm using that now as, I wouldn't say a bad anchor. I'm using it as a good anchor to carry as like, all right, well, that's not what I want out of any relationship that I have with my children. So how do I be better, or how do I get better at being that individual, is to be there as that father figure to a child, right? Children really don't have much say or have much going on, to the point where it's like they know what to do. So it's like, to do that, I was just like, no. So to answer, kind of to bring the story all back into full circle here, I'm using that anchor, not necessarily as a negative thing. It's just, well, that's not what I want. So how do we progress, and how do we get better at doing that particularly?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what she's saying, is you have two choices in any situation, right? It's kind of what it comes down to, is you have the choice to stay. And this is something that I know I've said before, is like, you have the choice to stay and stay stagnant, right? We've talked about that stagnation.
Yeah.
But, and because it's comfortable, because it's easier than stepping outside that comfort zone. But typically growth is on the other side. And when we hope that people choose growth, when we try to recommend that people choose growth, maybe, but it just depends on the situation, and like we discussed, some of the supports that they have.
Yeah, and then I think that you bring up a really valid point, that you use that as a navigation tool to what you don't want to become, right? And so I think that makes it even better, because memory without emotion is wisdom. And with that being said, having that wisdom to know how to navigate your next step, whether that's in a partnership, professionally, or as a father one day yourself, having that wisdom is absolutely priceless. But you had to feel that emotion then to understand that that memory would one day become wisdom. So I think that there are sides to both of that.
Have you ever thought about?
I love how Ronnie takes in information.
I'm just like.
That's why I laugh. That's how I laugh. That's why I laugh. I just like, because I know that Darienne talks like this. I know how she is. I know how intelligent she is. I
am a philosopher.
I am used to her inspiration on multiple platforms. It does not surprise me. And then Ronnie's just like, wait.
I should start a pod. No, I love being here with you guys. It has been so great, because this is what
it's like we can't even continue the conversation. We're just like, I need to take that in. Hold on, give me a sec. Yeah,
literally.
Take that in.
I mean, this is like
memory without emotion.
This is one of those episodes where it's like, if you don't listen to this one, I really don't know what to do for you at this point. Like, I don't know how to best help. Like, this is just one of those. And mind you, we're not even like really deep into the episode, but just the tidbits that you're saying, and I'm just like, damn, she's right. What the hell? And it's just the way you're putting the words together. It just makes so much sense. So, this may be a longer episode that it may take for individuals that are listening, because yes, you should pause. Yes, you should think about what she just said and understand what it means to you and how do you move forward from that. But honestly, the show is yours.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm like,
no, I do have a question because I'm not disagreeing, not even a little bit, but so what happens when there's, and I kind of know the answer, but I want to hear your perspective in terms of what happens when there is emotion connected to that memory. How do we grow into wisdom, or how do we take it as wisdom or something we can grow from if there's still an emotion connected to the memory? Because there's emotion connected to everything.
I call this the 30-second rule. I know. I call this the 30-second rule. Your emotions run your brain for 30 seconds at a time. That is it. So for 30 seconds, you are sitting in a nostalgia pit of where you were, how it smelt, what the weather was like, what you were wearing that day, the texture of how it made you feel on the inside. All of those emotions are running through the course of your brain for 30 seconds. After that, it is your choice to sit in that. And I also can say that it is very hard if you haven't sat with the pain, because I think a lot of us are constantly running from that pain, from those emotions. We're like, I don't want to remember that. Oh, don't talk about that. And just kind of avoiding the triggers. We live in a very avoidant society, which if you look at today, it makes sense. But understanding the root of where those emotions are coming from. Like for myself, when I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, that hurts so much. And I go, okay, well, why does that hurt so much? And I went, oh, because I felt abandoned. I felt like this was the story I was telling myself.
Yep.
And understanding that those stories don't have to be a whole book. It can be a chapter. And I can grow from that in the next chapters to come within my book of life. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah. Are you good, Ronnie? Do you bring some water? You got a fan in front of yours?
I should, right? This is really a lot in a good way. I mean, I'm enjoying every piece of it because just again, I think we all looked at it before. It's great when you're on the other side giving it, but it's amazing when you're on the other side receiving it. Oh my gosh, and that's just kind of where I'm at right now. That's why it's like I'm just hearing everything that I think maybe I was even saying to others, right? But not taking my own advice. So it's beautiful to hear. I do have a question. You mentioned we live in an avoidance society. What does that mean?
So what does being avoidant within society mean? It means we are creatures of habit and comfort. And this is not me getting on my pedestal of being like, make your life hard, go do the hard thing, right? Like, it is just, there are some things, your growth is on the other side. And that bridge is the fear of doing all the things that you need to do to get there. And you're going to have to burn that bridge with your comfort behind you. So that means to me, and in a society like this, we are constantly kind of forced to have a buy more, do more, but live like this. It's fed into us through social media, through, oh, listen to this, or make sure you're doing this. Oh, did you hear about this new trend? Instead of being like, I really like who I am and who I'm becoming. And I don't need to succumb to this and to buy into this.
Yeah.
And it's understanding that if you really want to do better and you want that at the bottom of your heart, it's on the other side of that bridge and you're holding the matches.
Yeah.
That's what that means to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does.
Yeah.
So for the individual that has fear right in front of them, and like you mentioned, holding the matches, what words would you say to that individual right now to help them walk that bridge so that they don't essentially fall?
I love this because I've been there. What would I say to myself? Let's put myself in that perspective. I'm sitting at that bridge right now. how are you going to win if you don't risk it all? And can you trust that you'll be caught if you jump?
Okay.
I think I have this conversation constantly with my teens. It just because everyone, I mean, I think if you're in therapy, you don't have to be in therapy, but I think a lot of people who are in therapy have this crossroads. And I agree with your bridge analogy. I actually look at it as a wall. To me, I look at it as a wall. And it's like you either got to break through or get over it, or it's going to be in front of you for your whole life. And it's so hard, and it's going to be case by case. It's going to be person by person, especially on the rapport that I have with them. But it's so often it's like, do you want to stay where you're at right now? Honestly, do you want to stay where you're at right now? And a lot of times it's like, no, like I'm not quite happy here. It's like, well, then you have one direction to go, and that direction is difficult. And I just sometimes. It's funny because you're not supposed to promise things, right? You're not supposed to tell them what their future is. Nobody can know what their future is. But there are sometimes, especially when I love these clients and when I'm so close to some of them, I'm just like, trust me. Like, I promise you're going to be so happy when you get through it. And like, I know that you can do it. And just instilling that in that person of like, you're at where you're at right now. Is this where you want to be? Truly, is this where you want to be? And I think sometimes not that I'm an artist, but sometimes my drawings or my like symbols go a little bit further than my words. And I'll always draw like, this is where you're at now, where it's just like kind of that flat line. Rugby bruises making their appearance. And then, or you can choose, it's going to go like the slope is going down first because so this is a quote, and I'm sure I've said this before, but there's a quote I learned in high school where it's just everything gets worse before it gets better. Everything in your life, whether you're practicing a new skill, which this is a skill. Everything we talk about today is a skill. Like, you have to learn it. People don't look at mental health like a skill. They're like, oh, I just like did this breathing exercise and I don't automatically feel better. I'm like, you did it one time. Did you ride a bike one time and automatically like now you can go do BMX, whatever? You know what I mean? Like, so it's a skill and people don't look at it that way, but everything gets worse before it gets better. So when you're practicing, when you're breaking through this wall, when you're trying to cross this bridge, it's going to go down, but then the peak is going to be so much higher than if you just stayed stagnant. So yes, right now it's going to, and this is actually something, I'm so glad I'm segueing myself. This is something I actually wanted to bring up that I've heard Darienne say, but you have to go through the suck. You have to embrace the suck before you can get to that peak and to the space that you want to be. And that's an idea that I had previously, was bringing that up because I know it's something I've said previously on another episode, but I've heard you talk about embracing the suck and going through the suck. And I just love that. I love that term. If you want to speak on it, I don't know.
Yeah.
We can even talk about on like it doesn't necessarily have to be on even the mindset kind of thing. It can be on investing as well. It's the same concept with investing. You start an investment portfolio, whatever the case may be, 9 times out of 10, unless if you just perfect timing, you're a sniper, you can do the things properly, you're going to be down before you go up. But the problem with that in itself is when you're down, most people are like, I'm losing money. No. And that's
this
when
is too hard.
Yeah, it's too hard. I made the wrong decision. You know, it's just all these thoughts that go on through our brains on a regular basis that just kind of disrupts the entire plan, right? So it's the same concept. It's when you start, you're probably going to lose. I mean, whatever. If you don't lose, great. But the goal is, of course, to gain. But you got that cycle, right? It goes up and it comes down and then it goes through the roof. And you're like, thank God I didn't sell or whatever the case may be. So it's like, it's a revolving cycle I don't think it's just on even mindset, to be honest. I think it's just everything that we go through on a day to day is trying to live through that suck. So then I have a question for both of you guys. How long is it before you give up the suck? Did we lose Darienne? Did we lose it?
Yeah, you definitely glitched on my end. Sorry. I was listening. I was like,
I got a question for the both of you guys, and whoever wants to go first, by all means. But how long is it that you are living in the suck?
Like, how long will you allow those?
I think that's solely dependent of your
Yeah.
journey.
Great answer.
It's
Great
kind
answer.
of, I think of this suck as a it's like a video game. If we were playing a video game and I didn't have to jump through hoops and break through walls and make sure I didn't get eaten and make sure I didn't like save someone, right? If I didn't have to do all that, I would not play.
Man.
And that's the one thing that keeps someone coming back to the video game, because you want to get better at the level. You want to make sure you've been like, oh, I've beaten this dragon before, I can do it again. Oh, I know exactly how to kick this wall hard enough to break through it, right? So I think that that's entirely dependent on your journey. How long do you want to play the game? And how good do you want to be at it?
Well, I want to be really good at it, so how long should I be there?
You're like, no, tell me exactly how many times I gotta go through this round to be a professional.
It's a lifetime journey of embracing it and welcoming it.
Yeah.
It reminds me so much of, like, I don't know if you guys ever played Super Mario Brothers.
Right.
Of like just those hard levels that it just takes so long to make it through, and it's just countless times, one after another. You're trying until you finally make it through. Then you're like, thank God, but you don't realize how long it actually took you to get through that little level in itself. And it's any game, honestly. But the first thing that comes to my mind is Super Mario Brothers. When I'm playing that game and just trying to make it through one level. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But you don't stop after one attempt. You keep going and you keep trying, and we don't think there's different things in our lives where we do that, right? We put in multiple attempts, we put in time, we put in energy, but we don't really think of it as like, you know, oh, I got to get through adversity, or I have to be resilient, or whatever it is. But then as soon as it's something mental health related, or which makes sense, you know, of course, like life events rather than video games, we're not always going to have those two together, but it's the same tools and it's the same mindset that you can take from piece to piece. And I've worked really hard and I've gotten through difficult situations in this area. I can do it in this area of my life as well.
As we are trying to figure out how to close this out, one thing that you'll notice, don't be freaked out. I promise you, we're recording on a different day. So yeah, we all look entirely different. That's intentional. We did have technical difficulties, so this is part of what it takes to bring the value to the table. You know, I like to call it, you know, the universe taking advantage of us, because the gems that we were dropping, I mean, did you guys not hear it? It was remarkable. However, I do want to end this off by saying, Darienne, if you don't mind sharing your social media handles, or how can people get in touch with you if they ever want to hear maybe your experiences on other avenues or your perspective on something. If you don't mind sharing that, I'll also include in the description, but I definitely want you to share what platforms that you definitely want people to reach out to you on.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, and my handle name is Sunny D for Darienne. So it's just my name, Darienne, but with Sunny D in front of it.
There you guys have it. And if you guys, I don't know, I was amazed by this episode. I would tell Courtney offline, this is a special one for me, at least. I'll say that. And I'll say it publicly. But you guys will, if you got to this point, you understand why. It's because there was a lot that was coming out of this episode. But till next time, keep on applying those perspectives, education, growth, and collaboration.